I am your host, Mrs. Renaissance Mans, and welcome back to a long walk in the trenches. I'd like to introduce you to our guest. Dr- what is that word?
Dramatism communication theorist.
What? Drama, Nissen, communication theorist, Kenny Burks. Kenny, how are you doing this fine evening?
Just fine, Mrs. Renaissance Man. Thank you for having me. May I say you're looking very fine yourself this evening?
Oh, Kenneth, you are a drama queen, aren't you? Let's get to the bean, shall we?
You betcha. While I developed the dramatism communication theory, it was my mission that the dramatistic pentad be rewritten and that includes 5 rhetorical elements, including act, scene, agent, agency, and purpose. You got it. We're taking it back to the traditional rhetorical elements of bridging the gap between language and identification, or getting along with people for the sake of temporary convenience.
And why is that necessary?
Because, silly, discourse is the only real way of action, and to get along and flirt with your audience a little bit, you need to identify with them in some fashion or another that is relatable in order to gain their ear and, most importantly, their pockets and trust.
Oh, okay. So that's why you are putting on a show. So when was this developed and why?
I developed this theory in 1945 while teaching at Bennington College and writing a grammar of motives. I wrote this in light of a prophetic vision because while I'm a rhetorician, I fully support a historic style of communication, and I think such a linguistically creative approach should not be forgotten. Am I right?
Number 2. We'll see about that. Tell me, what's your big idea behind the dramatistic theory?
Mrs. Renaissance Man, you are a feisty one. You're going to be my new bestie. Don't tell the others. They'll be jelly. Maybe do tell. Oh, live and die for the drama. Well, since you asked so nicely, I'll oblige. The dramatism theory is one of action, motion, discourse, which is in short, say, do, detract, place blame elsewhere, discredit, disregard, and despise, and disorient your audience with noise, divide, sometimes radical action, demise, finally take over, they saw it coming, so might as well snatch the rug out from under them, now while they least expect it. Go ahead, they'll eventually come up for air.
Okay, convenience. So tell me, what are the concept of the dramatism theory?
Well, Mrs. Renaissance Man, there are 3 concepts in particular, being the dramatistic pentad, identification, the guilt redemption cycle, and the guilt redemption cycle. Firstly, the infamous dramatistic pentad. This consists of the 5 rhetorical elements, including act, what was done, scene, where it was done, agent, who did it, agency, how the speaker intended to execute the scene, and what methods or techniques they used, as well as purpose of why it happened. These elements serve a function to captivate the audience and convince them to accept a certain curated view of reality. This pentad is selective with its audience. It utilizes complex language in the form of noise, intended as symbolic and or often interpreted as radical action, which is an unctuous technique used to augment perspective. Secondly, I believe that identification through self-persuasion is only semi-conscious. We watch people we look up to and think we have that life or are very similar to them. So we shall be able to live out our days unconsciously and follow blindly. I like to pair following blindly with the temporary convenience of getting along or winning the primitive vote. Additionally, we thrive socially through persuading ourselves. When we do this, we have to do it for others as well. So we're not entirely guilty and have to bring someone in to blame with us. We also feel called by way of becoming a leader in some format. With that said, there's more. We often think of ourselves as high stature and further gain as much of a following as humanly possible. We convince ourselves that we are living our lives for others, but it is truly out of respect and what we presume to be as hierarchical or achieve some sort of common ground. Additionally, once one has established themselves as a leader and has normalized what they've defined as bad, they are viewed as the hero. Third, the guilt redemption cycle is the motivating factor of man to purge themselves of guilt, or in essence, blame someone else for everything. This act serves the speaker in one of two ways, depending upon the mood of the audience, either through victimage or mortification.
Okay, very interesting. And you do have my attention. Can you do us the pleasure of providing a demonstration of the dramatism theory?
Absolutely. My theory has been a majorly useful tool in elections, especially in 1860, where political party disaffiliation played large part in methodical placement and distribution of popular and electoral votes. In 1940, with the presidential address, votes increased nearly 20%. In 1968, little changed within the political party. Platforms as war, racial strife, and political discord was off the charts. The material developed was most useful then and is very well still used in presidential debates and addresses to this day.
Jesus, I'm going to see what I'm not. Is that it? Look. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Mr. Bird. This interview sure has been enlightening. Mr. Bird, Trust Fund will have signed autographs available for purchase in the back, and you all have a copy unless you see it of the books of grammar of Motivate.
While Burke believed that it is dangerous to become complacent and complicit at the end, rather than acknowledge his own ideology with the respect of getting along, towards the end, he still had a hard time coming to terms with the fact that he was anti-Semitic and that such later branched out with other ethnicities, much like he developed the scapegoat method or incorporated it into the dramatistic theory and set the tone for people to openly be divided and segregated rather than bridged, as he so spoke of. Language is indeed powerful and can either be used as a bridge or a wall. This theory is well utilized today on all sides of politics, both being used for good and not so much. I believe the pentad may be compared to major political events and that it is still a common practice to gain the attention and adoration of any specific targeted audience. Morial and Shockley-Zalabak indicate that the media shall work together under all circumstances in order to establish open communication and trust. Thank you.